You believe that canned goods are safe, affordable, dependable, and essential pantry essentials. But what if I told you that some cans contain heavy metals, BPA, bacteria that flourish in storage, and other hidden dangers? These accessible foods put seniors at particular risk for heart, renal, and memory impairment. Today, we'll reveal 2 canned goods that are safe to consume and 7 that you should avoid. Let's begin with a canned snack that demonstrates how easily things can spiral out of control. Vienna sausages come in at number 7. Even before you touch the pull tab, you can smell them. The jellied broth on top, that sharp metallic twang, and those soft pale links that break apart virtually without any bite. It's a can of nostalgia for many individuals. It's more akin to a health trap covered in brine for anyone over 45. This is the calculation that no one uses on the label. Although 1 little can may not seem like much, it contains 700 or 1,000 min of salt. That is between 1/3 and 3/4 of the daily recommended intake for individuals with high blood pressure, according to the American Heart Association. Let's be honest, who consumes half of a can? The majority of us eat it all with crackers and consider that lunch. Perhaps that simply means more desire for younger people. That surge in salt is like yanking the rug out from under your kidneys and heart if you're older and using blood pressure medication, kidney medicines, or diuretics. Water accumulates, blood pressure rises, and all of a sudden your medicine must work harder to stay up. And those labels that said reduced sodium, each can still contains more than 700 milligrams. That is the FDA's weakness. Only 25% less than the original is meant by reduced. That does not imply safety. Here's a nasty twist too. Some manufacturers use potassium chloride in place of the salt that is lacking. It may seem innocuous, but anyone with kidney illness or using medications like lisinopril or spironolactone may have significant problems with their cardiac rhythm. It is categorically discouraged by the National Kidney Foundation. Imagine pushing your heart into turmoil while believing you are making a healthy decision. The recipe isn't the only thing that poses risks. The can itself contains them. Vienna sausages depend on high-temperature sterilization and a flawless seal to prevent botulism because they are a low-acid canned food. There is no warning odor when that seal fails. According to the CDC, botulinum toxin is poisonous, tasteless, and invisible. Do you recall the 2023 ConAgra recall? Due to packaging flaws that could allow contamination to enter, more than 2 million pounds of canned meat, including Armour Vienna sausages, were recalled. The lining poses issues even if the seal holds. To prevent corrosion, the majority of cans are covered with plastic films. Some are BPA and some are CM. Regulators still haven't thoroughly examined some of the BPA-free alternatives. In 2023, Europe reduced its safe exposure level to almost 0. The FDA still shrugs here in the United States. That ambiguity isn't a minor matter if you've battled with diabetes or hormone-sensitive tumors. Additionally, don't forget about the curing chemicals. Nitrites prevent botulism and keep the sausages pink. However, they also produce nitrosamines, which are the same substances that force the WHO to designate processed meat as a recognized carcinogen. You're adding risks to dangers when you include phosphate additions that subtly strain aged kidneys and arteries. You can finish everything in 5 minutes. Yes, they are easy to chew due to their texture. They fall quickly because of this. However, so do soft scrambled eggs with spinach or tuna with mashed beans. They provide you with protein without interfering with your kidneys or blood pressure. Vienna sausages are ultimately more than just a savory nibble. Targeting the weak points of an aging body, they're a little bundle of sodium, nitrites, additives, and packaging chemicals. It's a tiny can. The repercussions aren't. Wait until you open a can that hisses like the ocean itself, though, if that one shook you. Tuna in a can comes next at number 6. That fishy wave rolls out when the lid buckles and the brine splashes. Half bait, shop déjà vu, half lunchbox nostalgia. Like the inexpensive protein that helped us get through college and limited budgets, it feels secure and almost wholesome. However, the faith you placed in that can, you underestimate how shaky it is. Let's start with the heavyweight that goes by the label, mercury. Albacore white tuna carries significantly more than light tuna, which is typically skipjack. We are discussing a threefold distinction. It seems insignificant until you consider that mercury accumulates in the kidneys and brain over years rather than days. Perhaps that is a margin of safety for younger bodies. Managing early kidney disease or taking blood pressure medication in your 60s is a gradual drip of problems that you won't notice until the tremors and fog start to creep in. The worst part is still to come. There are other chemical curveballs besides mercury. Sometimes what happens after the fish is caught is more important than what it contains. Tuna's inherent histidine is converted to histamine by microorganisms if it warms on the dock. Furthermore, histamine is indifferent to whether the fish is canned, frozen, or grilled. It's there once it's there. An hour later, you're flushed, your heart is racing, and your skin is itchy after opening a shiny can and preparing your sandwich. Poisoning, not allergies. Try telling the emergency room nurse that the tuna melt was like having a heart attack. Then comes botulism, the silent killer, unforgiving, although rare. And this is what senior consumers need to know. The botulinum toxin is tasteless, odorless, and clueless. Remember that from 2025, numerous tuna brands were removed from Costco, Trader Joe's, and Chibi's shelves due to the possibility that the most deadly germs in the world could enter through the easy open lid design. What you believe to be a safe can become a sealed vial of paralysis with just one manufacturer sealing error. The can's lining has its own problems even if the seal is intact. Do you recall the BPA-free banners that were affixed to packaging? According to Europe, there is essentially no safe daily allowance of BPA. The FDA hasn't made any progress. Furthermore, BPS and BPF, the substitutes, might not be any better. Those three small letters on the can aren't the assurance you believe they are if you've survived prostate cancer, are battling diabetes, or simply don't want chemical roulette in your cupboard. Not to mention that salt is a component of the trap. It only takes a few hundred milligrams to clock a drained can in water. Packs with flavors push higher. Versions with less sodium. A few infiltrate potassium chloride. Okay for a teenager. Risky for a retiree taking typical heart medications or suffering from kidney illness. Your blood chemistry will shift into rhythmic pandemonium after just one bad lunch. Examine the ingredient list more closely to find the fine print that no one boasts about. Broth made from soy, pyrophosphates, stabilizers, more ingredients. Your doctor wishes you weren't adding to your already heavy prescription list tight arteries and aging kidneys. Yes, omega-3s are still present in tuna, still has protein. However, there are several weak points along the route from the boat to the can to your plate. Mercury that accumulates, heat-resistant histamine, botulism in the event that the seal fails, substances on which regulators cannot agree. It might smell like the ocean. The dangers concealed in the can? Not at all. Wait until you see what's concealed in something as seemingly innocent as a soup can if you think that fish in a can may become a chemistry experiment. Now, at number 5 on the list, canned soup is known for being quick and easy comfort food. It's easy, affordable, and ideal for times when you don't feel like cooking. However, there are 3 hidden risks associated with such comfort for elderly bodies: bombs of sodium, covert potassium exchanges. Additionally, authorities cannot even agree on can lining chemicals. Your comforting tomato soup suddenly appears far less inviting when you consider the potential danger of botulism from a tainted can. Start with the invisible threat. Chicken noodle, cream of mushroom, and beef stew are examples of low-acid canned foods that need a factory retort that precisely balances time, temperature, and pressure. Spores of Clostridium botulinum can survive if that sweet spot is missed. The can turns into the ideal incubator once it is sealed. It won't smell to you. It won't taste to you. Health agencies thus reiterate the same unyielding regulation. A can should be thrown out sealed if it leaks, bulges, or spurts. No sniff test. Don't cook it any longer. Simply throw it away. The sodium hit now. This one is hiding right in front of you. The salt content of half a cup of condensed tomato soup is around 480 milligrams. At half a cup, most people don't stop. A bowl is poured in a single session that amounts to more than 1,000 milligrams. Almost the whole day if you're trying to control your blood pressure. Vegetable beef and chicken noodle push even higher. Each meal has 600-900 milliliters. You quickly find yourself in danger if you pile that on top of bread, crackers, or deli meat. The labels with lower sodium content? Don't fall for it. That simply means 25% less than the original by law. The weight of a typical can, which originally 900 milligrams, lowers to about 675. Still far too high. The only ones that truly matter are low sodium, 140 mg or less per serving, or extremely low sodium, 35 mg or less. Read the fine print at all times. The story twist that most buyers overlook is this: many businesses are smuggling potassium chloride, which is currently sold as potassium salt, in order to reduce sodium. Sounds good until you consider what occurs when you're on common medications like ARBs or AC inhibitors, or when your kidneys aren't doing a good job of clearing potassium. A high potassium level, or hyperkalemia, can stop your heart. Older persons with chronic kidney disease are strongly cautioned by the National Kidney Foundation. Avoid potassium-based salt alternatives. However, they are concealed in healthy-sounding soups. To make matters worse, the can itself may contribute to the issue. For many years, BPA-based epoxy was used to line soup cans. The safe daily intake for BPA was recently set so low in Europe that almost any exposure surpasses it. Additionally, the EU decided to completely outlaw BPA in food packaging in late 2024. It is still safe, according to the US FDA. BPA-free linings, on the other hand, frequently just substitute BPS or BPF for BPA. Concerns with hormone mimicking different initials. Your so-called comfort bowl becomes a trap in disguise when you add in the extras, such as cream soups thickened with sugar and carbohydrates, phosphate stabilizers that strain the kidneys and bones, or unreported allergies that cause recalls. Warmth and nostalgia are promised by canned soup. It frequently results in a salt rush, a chemical concoction from the can lining, and a roulette wheel of dangers that your body finds harder to recover from after the age of 50. When the can opener slashes through, that whoosh, it could be the beginning of an issue you didn't anticipate or the sound of convenience. Are you curious about what is actually safe to keep in your pantry? To avoid being duped, subscribe right away. To help spread the word, please like it while you're at it. Wait till you open a can of chili, the one substantial shortcut that might hit harder than you might imagine, if that made you uneasy. The fourth item on our list is canned chili. Chili in a can seems innocent: meat, beans, seasonings, and a ready-to-eat meal in a matter of minutes. Here's the unsettling reality, though. Among the most dangerous cans available is this one. Why? Because according to canning science, chilies thrive in the low-acid zone. This means that in order to prevent Clostridium botulinum from waking up within, it must be sterilized to an extreme temperature of 240 to 250 degrees Fahrenheit under pressure. Food that is safe when prepared properly. If done incorrectly, it can lead to a botulism trap. The worst thing, you won't see it coming. It's not a hypothetical situation. Batches of commercial chili sauce were underprocessed in 2007. The outcome? Hospitalizations, a nationwide recall, and some of the most notorious foodborne botulism cases in recent memory. It was clearly called out by the CDC. Spores are able to survive due to inadequate thermal processing, and within sealed cans, poison developed. The price was paid by a few unfortunate individuals. This is where things become more unpleasant for senior citizens. There are more red flags besides botulism. Salt bombs, potassium substitutes, phosphate additions, and BPA-laced linings abound in the chili aisle. Just one of them is dubious. When you combine them, you essentially have a science experiment masquerading as meals. Start with sodium. About 1,000 ml of salt are included in 1 cup of canned chili with beans. If you eat the entire can, as many people do, you're consuming almost half of your daily allotment at once. According to the American Heart Association, persons with blood pressure issues should not take more than 1,500 milligrams per day. Compute. Before you even reach for a Coke or a piece of bread, You've already consumed a substantial bowl of chili and reached the halfway point. You'll frequently see something worse when you flip that reduced sodium container. Potassium salt is a more palatable term for potassium chloride. Okay, for a 25-year-old in good health, that covert switch can cause blood potassium levels to rise dangerously for an individual over 50 using ACE inhibitors, ARBs, or potassium-sparing diuretics. There is more to hyperkalemia than a lab result. Unusual cardiac rhythms may be triggered by it. The phosphates follow. Have you ever wondered why canned chili meat remains so consistent and springy? Phosphate of sodium. In addition to delivering highly absorbable phosphorus, it retains water and texture. Nephrologists advise elderly persons to limit their intake of this type of substance. That excess phosphorus damages bones, stiffens arteries, and strains kidneys over time. It's one of those slow-motion dangers that you don't notice until damage has been done. Furthermore, we haven't even come into contact with the can. Epoxy linings, traditionally manufactured with BPA, are used by the majority of brands. Although Europe's Food Safety Authority recently voted to completely ban BPA in food packaging and lowered the acceptable level to almost zero, the FDA continues to maintain that present exposure is safe. The kicker is this: BPA-free does not necessarily equate to safety. It usually requires switching to alternative bisphenols that behave similarly to BPA. Different verse, same tune. Here's the actual image. Chili in a can is more than just chili. It's a low-acid stew with phosphate additives, concealed potassium swaps, sodium excess, and chemical linings that can turn deadly if the manufacturing takes shortcuts. One can, one shortcut, and that filling supper appears to be a risk against your kidneys, your heart, and your nerves. It's not always safe to be sweet, and a can of fruit swimming in syrup is the best example of that. Sweet but unexpectedly dangerous canned peaches come in at number 3. Those pears or peaches have a healthy, almost nostalgic sheen. However, you stop eating fruit as soon as your spoon touches that syrup. In disguise, you're having dessert. Fruit cocktail in thick syrup contains more than 40 grams of sugar per cup. That's 11 teaspoons thrown into your system before dinner has even started. Simple syrup. Don't fall for it. It's a little thinner, but it's still sugar water. Light is actually defined by the USDA based on sugar content rather than health. That type of hit lands differently for people over 45. Changes in blood sugar are more than just unpleasant. They undermine heart health, interfere with medications, and exacerbate blood pressure issues. According to a JAMA study, persons who consume 17-21% of their calories from added sugar are over 40% more likely to die from heart disease. The risk almost tripled when the bump sugar level increased. Despite its seemingly innocuous appearance, fruit syrup is included in that total. And diabetes isn't the only issue. Acid reducers, blood pressure medications, and statins all work together when daily blood sugar levels subtly rise. A small dessert here, a can there, and all of a sudden, your blood work is speaking for you. Little hook. The can itself adds another twist just when you thought the problem is solely with the syrup. The FDA continues to maintain that current levels of bisphenol A, or BPA, are acceptable for the epoxy used to line the majority of these tins. Europe disagrees. By 2024, their food safety officials had completely outlawed BPA in food packaging after cutting the acceptable consumption to almost zero in 2023. Independent tests continue to detect bisphenols, even in cans labeled BPA-free, even though the United States has not followed suit. That wholesome-seeming cherry red cocktail? It has been sitting in a chemical bath that you did not consent to. Speaking of cherries, how about the bright red one that's floating in your fruit cup? It contained FD&C red number 3, a color that the FDA just prohibited from foods by 2027 due to animal studies that showed it causes cancer for decades. A few brands have already changed, others haven't. That tiny cherry is a warning sign that's right in front of you. Add the recalls now. California officials discovered dangerously high amounts of lead and cadmium in canned pears just last year, leading to their removal. It was glass shards last year. They prove canned fruit isn't as drama-free as it seems, even though these aren't common occurrences. What's the move then? Empty it, Wash it. Even better, don't use syrup at all. Purchase fruit in either its own juice or water, or, for the true victory, go to the frozen aisle. Just fruit, no syrup or container liner. You may get the sweetness without the sugar rush by pairing a half cup with protein, such as nuts or yogurt. Because syrup and canned fruit are more than simply fruit. Sold as nostalgia, but paid for with risk, it's a sugar explosion wrapped in a metal question mark. Please click the like button if this caught you off guard so that others are aware of it. In order to avoid missing the next secret thread in your pantry, you should subscribe. Imagine now opening a can that should be full of vitality and vigor, only to discover something that smells and looks like it has already been given up. Arriving at number 2. Spinach, the leafy green you believe to be safe. In actuality, canned spinach is more of a problem child than Popeye. It's not leafy greens that fall out when you crack the lid. It is a soggy mass that smells more like tin than soil and is submerged in brine. And once you're over 45, the risks inside that cluster add very quickly. Heavy metals are the first hit. It is well known that spinach acts as a sponge to draw cadmium from the soil. Canning does not remove that metal, nor does cooking. It remains. Cadmium accumulates in your bones and kidneys over many years. In order to safeguard kidney function, Europe really established stringent weekly limitations. With monthly caps, the WHO took things a step further. What's the point? When your body retains numbers for 15 years at a time, even tiny ones matter. It gets stranger from here. The can is not a neutral spectator in and of itself. Most cans have an epoxy coating on the interior. That meant BPA for many years, safe at current levels, according to the FDA. However, Europe took a different tack and outlawed BPA in food packaging. BPA-free is now a boast for many businesses. Don't celebrate too soon, though. Usually, it just means BPS or BPF. Chemical cousins who have their own problems. The salt is another factor. More than 700 milliliters of sodium can be found in 1 cup of ordinary canned spinach. In a few forkfuls, that's almost a third of your daily budget gone. Even cans without salt can contain 200 milliliters due to processing and natural sodium. The next time your blood pressure cuff squeals at you, keep that in mind. Even worse, decreased sodium occasionally results in potassium chloride being used instead of salt. Excellent if your heart is healthy. However, if you take certain blood pressure medications or have kidney disease, that excess potassium may be the unspoken risk that no one told you about. Remember the oxalates that spinach naturally contains. Kidney stones can be caused by those tiny crystals. Spinach is kept on the very high oxalate list by clinics. Furthermore, canned versions aren't safe for stone formers because they don't drop low enough. Anyone taking warfarin has to perform a juggling act when you factor in its extremely high vitamin K content. Just the same amount each week, neither too little nor too much. The kicker is this: the packaging can deceive you even if the spinach is flawless. If processing fails, the classic botulism zone is low-acid foods like spinach. Additionally, you will never taste or smell it. The CDC's stance is unambiguous. Don't open a can if it is leaking, spurting, bulging, or has deep seam dents. Throw it away. It's not brave to do a taste test. Russian roulette is what it is. Therefore, even though spinach ought to be a superfood, the canned variety is loaded with cadmium, salt, oxalates, vitamin K landmines, and an unreliable container. You can get the speed without the sludge with frozen. Furthermore, you can tell that this isn't strength in a can after just one glance at that lifeless gray-green clump. It's a covert compromise. Wait until you hear about the comfort food in a can that masquerades as dinner if that left you with a bad taste. Lastly, the greatest hidden danger of all, canned pasta, comes in first place. Pasta in a can has that elusive allure. The smell of meat, tomato, and something slightly sweet greets you as soon as you open the lid. It's a bowl of childhood. Beneath the nostalgia, however, is an ultra-processed trap that silently stresses out aging bodies with chemicals, sugar, sodium, and packaging. The catch is this: it's not just sauce and noodles. It's a factory formula designed to taste the same every time and last for years on the shelf. This includes preservatives to keep it safe, sugar to balance the acid, starch thickeners, and added fats. Physicians associate increased consumption of ultra-processed foods with increased risk of heart disease, diabetes, and even death. Therefore, that little red can isn't helping if you're already fighting high blood pressure or high cholesterol. Just the sodium story is cruel. About 740 mg of salt and 1 cup of canned ravioli. Numerous cans, nearly 1 in 300. No one ever eats half a serving, you know. That's half a day's sodium, or the entire budget, in one sitting for elderly people taking diuretics or AC inhibitors. While pasta drowns in sauce, beans can be rinsed to reduce salt. You can't get rid of it. Do you believe that the lower sodium versions are safe? Not if you have kidney problems. Several of them substitute potassium chloride, which seems innocuous until your medications make the additional potassium harmful. An excess of potassium in the blood, known as hyperkalemia, can cause heart rhythm problems that are worthless comfort food. The label might imply that it's better for you, but it's worse for the wrong person. Then there is the actual can. For BPA linings, acidic tomato sauce is a nightmare. Europe recently raised the safety bar by a factor of 20,000, citing effects on the immune system, while the FDA dismisses current levels. Not even BPA-free is a good thing. Other bisphenols, such as BPS, were still leaking in, according to Consumer Reports. Research is linking them to increased mortality and heart risks. Tuesday night ravioli isn't exactly what you signed up for. The use of additives doesn't end there. To make the sauce kid-friendly, sugar and corn syrup are subtly added. In addition to keeping the meatballs tender, phosphate additives subtly tax kidneys that are already exerting extra effort. Nitrites. Processed meats are known to cause cancer because of them. As if that weren't enough, allergens are concealed in the ingredient list: egg, wheat, soy, milk, and now sesame. One wrong bite could result in an ER visit because of that. There are rules for storage as well, but they won't tell you. You're cooking the chemicals into your food if you leave it in a heated garage at 100 degrees. Can you open it and put leftovers in the refrigerator? The lining is disintegrating when you taste that metal tang. It's easy to fix. Use it within a few days after transferring it to a glass container. However, how many actually do that? Essentially, canned pasta sells the memory of a low-cost, safe meal. However, every bite has a cost. Chemical linings, salt shocks, deceptive sugars, and hazards that only increase with age. The sentimentality is genuine. The security? Not at all. Not every aisle is working against you, but you have seen the cans that take shortcuts with your health. Some shelf-stable staples are still relevant, and you might be surprised by the first one. We have canned beans at number 2 on the safe list: inexpensive, wholesome, and surprisingly heart-healthy. Canned beans. Beans are one of the few exceptions that, if you know how to choose and use them properly, might work to your advantage despite all the talk about canned goods being harmful. This is the reason. One of the low-acid foods is beans. They are therefore inherently more susceptible to harmful spores such as Clostridium botulinum. However, businesses don't just boil them when they can. Retorting is a pressure cooking method that raises the temperature considerably above boiling, reaching between 240 and 250 degrees Fahrenheit. The beans become commercially sterile after the harmful material is eliminated by that burst of heat. In other words, there is virtually no possibility that botulism will infect your chili if the can is still whole. The worst part is still to come. If there was ever a problem, you couldn't detect it. Botulinum toxin has no taste, no fragrance, and no amusing appearance. The can itself serves as a safety check because of this. Tight seams and flat lids? You're doing fine. Deep dents close to the seams, leaks, or bulges. At that point, you leave. No second chances. Canned beans are frequently safer for senior citizens than the ones you'll find behind the deli counter. Refrigerated cold cuts, soft cheeses, and ready-to-eat salads are breeding grounds for listeria. Conversely, beans have already been sealed up and rendered sterile. Nothing new will be hiding within that can until you open it once it is cooled. It's the difference between a refrigerator door that keeps opening and closing and a sealed vault. In fact, salt is the main grievance of most people, not safety. Despite the high sodium content of canned beans, there is a startlingly easy solution. After pouring them into a strainer, rinse them for 10 to 30 seconds under running water. According to studies, a brief rinse immediately reduces salt by roughly 1/3 to almost half. That's what separates a heart-healthy protein source from a salty gut bomb. Protein is only the beginning. 7 to 9 grams of protein, 6 to 9 grams of fiber, potassium, iron, and folate are all included in half a cup of beans. Since older persons frequently lack certain nutrients, doctors are always stressing the importance of beans, which combine all of those elements into a single, affordable, and shelf-stable product. You can lower your cholesterol, stabilize your blood sugar, and provide prebiotic fiber to your gut microbes by occasionally substituting beans for a fatty cut of beef. Even though beans can make you gassy, it's still tolerable. Rinse them thoroughly, start small, and give your stomach time to acclimate. The short-term bloat is worth it for the benefits to your gut, heart, and brain. Even the liner of the can has changed in your favor. The majority of well-known brands now employ BPA-NI linings. Regulators may dispute trace hazards, but you can further reduce exposure by following BPA-free or BPA-NI labels and keeping cans out of the garage in the summer. The bottom line? Canned beans aren't just safe as long as you check the can, rinse, and drain, and store them carefully. They are among the few canned goods that actually meet their nutritional and safety standards. The following one is even more of a kitchen workhorse, which may surprise you. Surprisingly, it's safer, more adaptable, and acidic than the original. Lastly, tinned tomatoes come in at number 1, the pantry essential that in fact provides antioxidants and flavor in each can. Canned tomatoes. When you crack one open, you'll hear a piercing hiss and a sour scent that rises without any bulge or mystery slime. It's more than just dinner. It is the sound of something designed to protect you. This is the reason. Food experts refer to tomatoes as high-acid foods. Their pH remains below 4.6 due to their inherent acidity, which is frequently enhanced during processing with a little amount of citric acid. Simply said, the bacteria that causes botulism, Clostridium botulinum, cannot survive in the environment within that container. Combine that with the retort method used in industry. Cans that have been sealed and heated to temperatures above 240 degrees Fahrenheit. Additionally, you have a product that is intended to block off one of the most deadly toxins in existence. That is a game changer for seniors, because it's not shelf-stable cans of food that end up in hospitals for older adults. Listeria can flourish in the cold cases containing the soft cheeses and deli meats. Cans and tomatoes don't exist there. They are acidic, sealed, and sterile. The likelihood of hazard is extremely low as long as the can is undamaged and free of severe seam, dents, bulges, and leaks. That's the precautionary aspect. The nutrition narrative, however, is even more fascinating. Tomatoes are not diminished by processing. In fact, it opens more. Once those cell walls are broken by heat and homogenization, your body can more easily absorb lycopene, the antioxidant component that gives tomatoes their red color. According to studies, eating a raw tomato slice on a sandwich does not provide as much usable lycopene as canned sauce or paste. Your absorption rate increases even more when you cook with it and sprinkle it with olive oil. Sodium is the most common catch for older persons monitoring their blood pressure. Some tomatoes in cans are dripping with salt. This is an easy maneuver. Get versions without salt and season them yourself. There is no marketing gimmick behind those low sodium and very low sodium labels. They are defined by law. 140 milliliters or less per serving is considered low sodium. 35 milliliters or less is considered very low. Instead, than relying on the front label, develop the habit of skimming the nutrition facts box, an additional layer of reality. Potassium. It is naturally abundant in tomatoes, which is good for most hearts, but may cause problems if you're using potassium-sparing medications or kidney medications. Potassium chloride, now marketed as potassium salt, is substituted in certain low-sodium goods. Use just plain tomato products without that addition if it worries you. Yes, the lining of the can. Today, the majority of tomato cans are marked BPA-free or BPAI, meaning that BPA is not purposefully introduced. Because tomatoes acid could remove BPA epoxy more quickly, there was a trend away from it. Although regulators may argue about safe limits, you are already reducing danger if you keep your cans in a cold pantry rather than a hot garage. If you want to completely avoid metal, you can also use glass jars and cartons. Finally, because canned tomatoes are sealed, sterile, and acidic, they are safe. Additionally, processing makes it easier to use their best nutrients, which makes them healthy for you. Combine them with olive oil, watch sodium levels, and you have one of the most intelligent pantry essentials an elderly family can purchase. Keep your pantry from becoming a health risk. If this breakdown was helpful to you, hit like and subscribe right away. I'll show you which foods are worth keeping on your shelf, safe and suitable for senior citizens.